Hello there, thank you and welcome to another edition of the Evening Review. My name is Ogito Craig, and this evening we are speaking to the National African Students Association, a body that is representing students navigating financial difficulties, struggles and uncertainties about their future. We ask whether NASA is turning their daily realities into real change or whether students are still trying to be heard. In studio with me, I have Mr. Matheus Isak. He's the NASA national spokesperson. How are you, Mr. Isak?
I'm good. How are you, Mr. Craig?
I'm very well. Thank you very much.
And
now, since your founding in 2019, you've been positioning yourself as a national voice for students. But concretely, what changes has NASA been able to achieve? What can we attribute to your actions rather than just your advocacy?
Since the formation of the association in 2019, NASA has actively been contributing to the advocacy and advocating for policy change. One of the outcome or concrete result we can reference ourselves to as an association is the commencement of monthly NSFAF distribution, non-tuition fees. So we advocated for that students be paid on a monthly basis rather than the old structure of just funding around October there, which is already the end of the year, and students during the course of the year, they have been experiencing financial shortages or challenges. So rather make it at least a monthly payment. And also, apart from now the actions, you know, as a student body, we cannot really just selfishly, as to say, take the credit for policy change or initiatives that are coming. So we have also to appreciate other stakeholders for sitting on tables and reaching agreement like this with the association in the best interest of the student community, of course.
I see. And your association has consistently been describing itself as non-political. But isn't funding a political issue? Are you comfortable in the political space?
Okay, so answering that question is we should distinguish between being non-partisan and apolitical in such a sense that we say we are non-political because our association is not affiliated or close to any political party.
Okay.
But still, we cannot ignore that advocating and policy discussion is political. So we are non-partisan, but of course, we are political in such a sense that we do not attribute ourselves to any political party, but rather just be neutral. And we are very comfortable in operating in that area.
Okay, yes. Fair enough. Recently, you've criticized what you call exclusionary funding practices and funding models that leave certain students out, issues like, for instance, grade 12 certificates. What is fundamentally wrong or broken with the system, and who should be held responsible?
What we mean that you see, the new funding model, let's just focus on the new funding model.
Yes.
It revolutionized education in Namibia, as to say, in the sense that, okay, education is more accessible. But we think there is a lack of proper policy design, implementation, and how the ministry or the government is choosing to go about it. You cannot ignore that in Namibia we have social classes. Now you subsidize education system for the first primary qualification. But then what happens to the secondary qualification of people or students that are going to seek to further their studies, the likes of masters? And the higher the level, and things are getting expensive. So like that, we are going to say higher qualifications are going to be in possession or by those students that come from well-off families. Now you are ignoring the lower class and probably the middle class in your funding model. So we do not want to say or to point fingers to any specific somebody, but rather we say the system already, the system itself, it's failing. So it's not well structured. So that is what we think.
So what system would you like to see replacing that?
Maybe a whole education system must be redesigned. And these policies, this government policy must be designed in such a sense that equity doesn't mean equal distribution. So you should establish frameworks whereby you have to be guided as to say, okay, maybe let's make tertiary or subsidized system optional. And optional to such a student must qualify if you are below this standard, let's say like that. Let me say I'm from the high class. My parents are well off and they can afford that. Now I have an opportunity. I'll study my first qualification for free, and then I think of masters, I'll continue with my masters, and then I think of a PhD, I'll continue with my PhD. But also, my friend down there that stays deep in the shacks and the family, the mother probably just a vendor in a street vendor. She is allowed to study for her first primary qualification, and then what happens to the secondary? Masters, she cannot fund it. Now you have a bachelor's program, and in the end, you graduate back to the streets, no job. You think of feathering. Opportunity to you, that opportunity to you is denied.
I see. But you guys also take the stance that the current funding criteria is purposefully excluding deserving students. That's a very serious allegation. Do you think the problem is in terms of a policy failure? Is it because of budget constraints or deliberate systematic inequality?
We can say it's a systematic failure, because in the current system, as I also answered in the previous question, the current system is designed, especially the new model of tertiary funding, is designed that majority, or perhaps let's say 60% of the deserving students are excluded from the current funding model. Like we say, we are currently funding primary degrees. And we have several students out there that are seeking for opportunities to continue, to articulate, maybe to do their masters. But then in the current model or the current system that the education system is now following, such students are not funded, are not considered for funding anymore under the new model of funding. So like that, you are systematically leaving out the middle class and the lower class. And also, we can say it's an institutional failure also. The ministry itself is failing. It's failing in such a sense that our economy, or perhaps let me say our budget, is not correctly allocated. So if you do allocation reviews, perhaps we could come up with a new working system. That is all we are calling for.
Okay. Let's address the recent situations of students abroad who were left in the lurch because of funding delays, which you guys also spoke about. What should be the consequences of those kinds of incidents, and how would you like to avoid them in the future?
The moment students get in the way of harm in such a way that you have seen, we have also spoken about the situation that happened to our Namibian students abroad, of which specifically to say the ones that were stranded in Zambia, when now accountability becomes the question here. So is our government or is our officials able to account for these activities or for such occurrings? Because now if student harm is in the image, for us now advocacy becomes accountability. We should be able to push the government, hold certain individuals accountable so that swift action can be taken, so that we don't compromise about it. So what we do is we initiate meetings, and if you don't act, we don't hesitate, and we do it unapologetically. We can become radical, so that we raise the voice. We need to hold someone accountable.
But Mr. Isak, we don't really have a culture in Namibia of holding individuals accountable. There are very few instances where that happens. I don't know, perhaps your organization is different, but it seems that you're wishing upon a star. I mean, perhaps there's a more practical solution that you can pursue. We do, of course, have the courts, and you can take somebody to court. But in terms of institutions, government agencies, offices, and ministries, holding individuals accountable doesn't happen every day.
Yes, you are correct. And that becomes now, we need a policy change. Policies must be changed. We had a South African advocate that visited these days, and the message was that once the system, or you have a constitution designed to serve your people, but it's not bringing outcomes in the best interest of the people, then you should change these decisions. And individuals, whether pleasing or not, they should be pointed fingers at. They should be called in front and held accountable. Our system are designed to protect individuals. And when you design such a system, what you expect? Corruption. You should call for end to corruption in institutions like that. That is the only way we can finally realize a dream of having a country that has individuals that are willing to own up their action.
Thank you, Mr. Isak, and thank you very much. We will go on a short commercial break, but we'll be back right after this. So please stay with us on the Evening Review. Welcome back to the Evening Review. My name is Ogito Greg, and we continue our conversation with Mr. Matheus Isak. He is the national spokesperson for the National African Student Association, NASA. Mr. Isak, there are various student associations in Namibia at the moment, the likes of NANSO and SUN, and some of them enjoy government funding and some of them don't. That's issue for contention. But I want to find out, where does NASA stand in that power dynamic? And do you feel that government is purposefully helping certain student voices and neglecting others?
NASA maintains the student, NASA stand is that student voices should not be filtered via political alliances and being or historical alliances or historical reasons. Funding should be distributed equally to equally deserving student bodies. We do not say, of course, there are concrete reasons to believe that certain student bodies are favored comparing to others. But what we call for is that we call for the ministry to abolish this discriminating student body funding model and call all registered student bodies to the table and discuss new fair terms. For example, let's say we can rediscuss the funding in financial means and rather provide support to student bodies equally. Such as you just say, there is a budget allocated for student body. So once a student body organize programs, we approve their programs and they receive a budget assistance for such activities, rather than providing monetary fund to only one favorable student union. So voices in the student community come from various organizations, and we believe everyone should be treated equally without historical biases and political biases. So it must just be fair for all.
Currently, what criteria is used to decide who gets funded and who doesn't? Is it known?
Mr. Greg, you asked me, I do not know.
Oh.
It's not only me, but the whole student community, especially as leaders, will tell you we do not know the criteria which is used to fund certain student bodies.
I see.
It is not known.
NASA has been supportive of government in terms of the revolution that you mentioned, the funding model, but it also has raised criticism of government in the past. So I wanted to find out where does the association stand in terms of its relationship with government at the moment?
The relationship with government at the moment?
Yeah.
We can say it's strategical.
Okay.
Strategical in such a sense that we do not just criticize to oppose for opposition, but we also collaborate with the government, whereby in projects that we feel like we deem they are in the best interest of the student, such as we just welcomed their new funding model. We welcomed it, but still we are calling for further discussions at the table.
I see. You've pushed for reforms like equal non-tuition funding across institutions, which you mentioned earlier. But there are limits to what Namibia can realistically afford. Are you advocating for something that the current economy can't sustain?
We should understand the term equity in funding.
Okay.
Based on our association perspective, is not to say everyone should get the same. So equity in funding should be equal distribution according to demand. So let's say what we mean by according to demand is you cannot allocate 100 million to an oil tycoon and allocate 100 million to a street beggar. Those people, their needs are not the same. So let's create a system that funds according to the need of a certain institution or a certain ministry. So government funds, we don't think it's impossible. It is very within our reach as Namibia. Our economy is that strong, it can sustain it. But proper planning, proper research, and proper consultation is the only way we can really say this can work.
For a moment, let's look beyond funding, because NASA has also addressed other social issues like unaccredited tertiary or educational institutions and also vaping. Are you guys not spreading yourself a bit thin, or is that necessary in the broader context of student welfare?
Effective advocacy requires us to advocate for everything responding to the full spectrum of issues affecting students, of which vaping is one of those. We need to advocate for the whole student environment, not just the academic side, but also the mental health side. So especially within our association, we have a specific portfolio for that, an executive for that, of which you call the Secretary of Gender Welfare, Community Development, and Human Internal Affairs. So that we do not just focus on the environment, academic environment of the student appearance, but also is the student in the good condition. Is the student in a good condition? That is why we are advocating for no to vaping in school. Vaping is dangerous and it's addictive. Now you get to have institution whereby the culture there is just vaping. Now are you going to call that an institution of learning or institution of vaping? Yes.
Okay. There's growing frustration amongst young graduates, especially around unemployment and mismatched qualifications. You've called for better career guidance, but isn't that an admission that the education system is producing graduates that the economy cannot absorb?
Yes, the situation with the frustration amongst graduates is it highlights a broader structural gap that the system is producing the necessary knowledge and skills, but the economy or the government has no structured ways of supply of employment to the youth. So you have a system that is producing more professionals than it is creating job opportunities. So maybe we industrialize our economy, or we say government focus more on entrepreneurship, like funding individuals to create that self-sustaining mechanism amongst the economy. So now you'll find having somebody that just graduated with a BA, Business Administration qualification, but he is still going back to the street to look for a job when they did business administration. That person can start up a business. That person have the skills to run a business. So if we provide youth support, then I think we can be getting there.
You mentioned industrialization, and that's a message that we've been hearing repeatedly for many, many years. It's a stated aim of our government. In fact, Vision 2030 is all about industrialization. But industries, manufacturing has changed. There are no jobs there anymore. We're talking about automated factories. We're talking about maybe 14 people working in a multi-billion-dollar factory. So will industrialization, in your opinion and from your perspective, representing students, will it still provide employment for Namibians?
It will still provide employment. We are still, for me, I think we are still not even level 2 industrialized nation. And with our population, if we industrialize, like fully industrialize the economy, employment opportunities will be there. And also, just not relying on industrialization, let's think of other ways we can create jobs for the youth. We appreciate the new initiative, the National Youth Funding Fund. So if more projects, if more youth initiatives are considered and given the proper support, then we have an economy whereby the youth does not have to necessarily rely on the government to provide jobs, but the community itself is providing jobs. The students themselves, they are providing jobs to the
Thank you,
people.
thank you, Mr. Isak. We don't have much time left, but I would like us to touch on one more very important aspect, which is representation. You say that you are for all students and learners from schools to universities, but there are marginalized learners and students all over the country. Are student organizations in Namibia really representing the marginalized in the country?
Yes, even though the urban voice is echoing louder,
Yes.
I believe initiatives, especially from our organization view, let me not speak for others, NASA is doing the job. The problem is that NASA is solely student funded. It is our members that fund the project of this association. Since we do not have support from the government, neither organization, but we are pushing there because we establish branches in primary school, secondary school. For example, we have deep in the bushes in Kavango East, Kavango West. We have, we are reaching there.
Thank you
it's
very
just
much.
that the financial constraints are not allowing us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isak, and thank you very much for joining us on this edition of the Evening Review. Be sure to join us again when we do another edition tomorrow evening, but for now, good night.
Thank you for having me.